Hello. Before we start, I just want to confirm all of you are able to hear my voice and see the screen. Uh, if you can, if you cannot, please send a message. Uh, we'll see if there's something that we have to do from here. Sorry about the delay. We had to wait a little bit because there were other people who were supposed to join. Please bear with us. All right. So if all of you are able to hear and see the screen, and right now all of you were not given the organizer access for you to record. We have the organizer and he will be recording the session. Once this session is complete, the session will be sent to you as a link. You can download that, so do not worry about recording the session. All right. And all of you are on mute right now because of a few reasons. So once the session is complete, or even in between the session, if you have any questions, you could go ahead and raise your hand and we could unmute you so that you could go ahead and ask questions if you have any. All right. So I'll go ahead and start the session. Today's agenda would basically be looking and trying to understand the SAP Business Objects data services, right? And we will be classifying this presentation into two major sections. One is where we try to understand the information management tools, enterprise information management tools, and the other one is to understand data services as a combined solution. We will also be trying to understand what we will be covering during this training, and also we'll be taking a lot of questions, right? So let's go and try to understand what exactly is business objects data services. All right. So our agenda, like I said, we will be looking and trying to understand what exactly is data services and how this tool existed, what is the latest version of this tool, what are the advantages of using this tool, and how does it fit into the SAP landscape and the other landscapes as well. All right. Now, before we go ahead and try to understand the tool, first let's understand what exactly is an enterprise information management tool. Now, in an enterprise, right? So when you talk about an enterprise has a lot of different functions that it has to perform. And when I say functions, it has to acquire new materials. There has to be funding that should happen, which is taken care by the finance. There should be stock that needs to be stored. There should be selling that should be happening from the sales side, right? There should be salaries that should be maintained, done from the HR, right? So there should be quality that is to be maintained. So there are so many functions that happen in an enterprise, right? And each of these functions has to be governed by some kind of a tool, all right? And when this tool is handling the basic functions, now what happens is you end up collecting a lot of data, all right? Even at your transaction level or even at just storing your master data, you have so much data that is accumulated, okay? And all of this data will make sense if it is kind of linked one to the other. So in an enterprise, if you have different functions with each of them, with your sales on having some data, your finance having some data, and all of that is independent of each other, then it doesn't really make sense having all those tools, because a decision maker wants all of that data to be together and should be able to connect one to the other. All right, and then he can make decisions and strategy even better. So what we end up trying to do is we try to use an ERP solution, or we try to go ahead and bring that data from different places at a consolidated location. And what an EIM tool does is basically it understands any system, meaning if you're using different tools to bring in data. It kind of understands the language of the source from where it is being pulled, and then it understands the language of the target system to where it is being accessed in. All right, and it helps to bring data from one place to the other. At the same time, it helps in building a warehousing solution. So it brings all that data to a consolidated database or an application. And that is where once you have a consolidated set of your data from all of these different functions, you can make a lot of knowledge out of it. All right, and that is what the EIM tool is aimed to do. Okay, data services on the other side is just one of this, falls into the EIM bracket. You have so many different tools in the market. You have again SAP's XI or PI, you have business intelligence, you have Informatica, so there's so many different other EIM tools that are available in the market. Data services is just one of that, and the biggest reason why data services is such a big hit is because of the mere simplicity of this tool. It's very simple to understand, very transparent, and more than anything, it is something that is driven by SAP. That's the reason why it's such a big hit. It handles both SAP and non-SAP levels as well. All right. So we'll try to go ahead and see before SAP acquired data services, or it named its tool as data services, you also had other solutions that were available with SAP. All right. One of the main concerns in an enterprise is to handle your master data. Now, what exactly is master data is basically the data that doesn't usually change with respect to time, or even if it changes for a very long time, it stays constant. An example could be, let's say, your materials that you prepare at your enterprise. Let's say you are a manufacturing industry, and you're trying to create products. Now, the master data of this product has to be available, all right, and something that will easily help you in migrating this data from one location or from one application or one database into a consolidated database is usually data services. But there are other tools that will help you in having master data. Now, since you have different functions that happen in your enterprise, and you have master data that is created at different levels, there is always a possibility that your master data can be repeated at multiple places. And having master data actually repeated at different places with different changes is really not good for a company or for an enterprise. You need to have one view of master data, and that should be used between all of these different functions or function modules. All right. So SAP brought a tool called as MDM, Master Data Management, prior to having data services. What MDM was, or the reason why they brought an MDM was to again maintain one version of truth of the master data across the enterprise. And MDM also was handling cleansing part of it. They promised 75% cleansing when in practicality they could only give almost 30% or 25 to 30% cleansing for the data. All right. So why I'm telling you this is because data services as an application also has the ability to cleanse data, and you can almost give 80% cleansing. That is what SAP tells, and they've shown that in practicality that the tool is able to give 80% data cleansing solutions as well. Right. So apart from actually doing its main role as a migration tool or a warehousing tool, it also helps with data cleansing on the same tool. Right. So we'll try to go ahead and understand how exactly and why exactly is this part added into this tool, and how does it help in giving almost an 80% data cleansing solution. Now, going into the history of how this tool came into being, this was developed by ActaWorks, ACTA. ActaWorks is the one who's actually developed this tool. The tool was called as Data Integrator, all right? And over time, Business Objects acquired the Data Integrator as their third-party solution. All right, we know Business Objects for its wonderful reporting solutions. They have different flavors of reporting tools, but they also have a few of the tools for the ETL process as well. Some of the tools that they have is the Data Integrator, the Data Federator, and Data Quality. The Data Integrator basically is this tool which is acquired from ActaWorks. They have another tool called as Data Quality, which looks into the quality aspects of the data. And then there is another tool called as Data Federator. Data Federator is an abstraction level solution that they have for visualizing data from different sources. Now, when you have data coming in from different sources, and you want to, even before you bring that onto a consolidated database, you want to see how it can handle or what is our solution. So even before you actually do the solution, to visualize that solution, you have an abstraction layer, and that is called as Data Federator. So Data Federator is another tool that was available with Business Objects. And when SAP acquired Business Objects, apart from the reporting solution that they acquired, they also got these three tools, Data Integrator, Data Quality, and Data Federator as add-on. All right, and then the hierarchy of how this tool was used within the within the Business Objects was, the first layer was the Data Federator. The Data Federator layer basically is the abstraction layer, like I said. You will have data coming from different sources. It could be from an SAP source, an Oracle source, and also a SQL source. Now you have to somehow have a picture when you bring all of this together, how will your solution look like, right? So in that scenario, Data Federator is the one that will give you a visual effect of how you can see all of that data from different sources in one consolidated level, right? So it basically is not an ETL tool, it is just a visualization tool, all right, Data Federator. Once data, and it basically helps you in connecting with different sources, all right, it can connect to various different sources, and it connects to the sources, all right, and right under Data Federator you have the Data Integrator. The Data Integrator is the actual ETL tool that is able to bring data from one source and then apply transformation logic and then push it to a target system. Data Federator helps you in connecting, and through Data Federator, the Data Integrator fetches data from different sources and then applies transformation logic and then sends it to the target. All right, so that is how the Data Integrator is placed right under the Data Federator. And under Data Integrator, you have the other component called as Data Quality, or you can say it will be pretty much parallel with Data Integrator. Once you go ahead and apply the transformation logic, that data after your transformation logic is applied is sent to Data Quality for the data quality check. All right, and there are different quality checks that are performed on the data, and once you know that the data is in the perfect quality standards, that data is actually sent back to Data Integrator, and Data Integrator sends that to the target system. That is how it usually happens in the Business Objects model. But once SAP acquired Business Objects, what they thought was, why should we have both these tools, the data integrator and data quality, as two separate tools when we can go ahead and bring can have a solution to combine both of them. All right, and let me talk to you a little bit more about how they went about it. So in the hierarchy, so once you have data federator, data integrator, and data quality, now data integrator is a standalone solution. It doesn't really require data federator to be always there as the abstraction layer. Data integrator by itself is able to connect to different sources and a lot of different targets as well. Alright, so it is a standalone solution. It can by itself go and connect to the sources. It can connect to SAP, non-SAP, databases, web services, files. All of these are something that it can connect to, extract data, all of that it can handle. So on solutions, data integrator is used as an ETL tool, and it connects to different sources. It brings that data. Now each different system connects at a different level or a different interface, and when you connect, you will have to bring in different kinds of metadata to interface with those tools. Now once you are able to bring in that metadata and the data required for it, you can consolidate that data at a database or an application on top of which you have the business objects enterprise solution built. Okay, this is how the usual architecture is, and this is when you're using business objects data integrator. That was quite a while ago. All right. Now this tool has a couple of standout solutions. One is data lineage and impact analysis. Data lineage is a solution where you're able to go ahead and look at and date back what are the changes that have happened to the objects that were built uh, in history. Meaning, let's say you built an object and let's say you had a merger that happened, and the data that was there on the other company's database was a little different on the data types, and you modified your object to accommodate that data. And if you want to trace those changes, you can use data lineage. The other way around solution is called the impact analysis. After you build your solution, let's say you want to go ahead and make some changes on the object. Now, impact analysis gives you a detailed report of what are all the objects that could get affected because of you changing this object. All right? So that is what impact analysis is used for. So these are a few extra solutions that you have with this tool, apart from its major responsibility, or the major solution that it gives is the transformation logic and the loading logic, right? Extraction, transformation, and loading logic that it provides. Going a little ahead, now once SAP acquired this tool, once they acquired business objects and they had all of these different tools, data federator, data integrator, and data quality, they thought, why can't we go ahead and take data integrator and data quality, because we're using them parallelly, but we're not able to give the perfect solution. Why can't we go ahead and combine them to give one solution? That was what they did with Data Services 3.0. So that was the first time when data services as a tool was introduced. It was always called data integrator and data quality as separate tools, and SAP tried to bring both of them onto the same platform, and they called it as data services. Even now it exists as a combined solution, data integrator and data quality on the same platform. Now, data integrator by itself has its own server, has its own repository, and has its own interface. The interface is called as the designer. Similarly, data quality as well has its own server, has its own repository, and has its own interface. The interface is called as architect. Right? Now, what happens as a solution is data services connects to different sources, all right, and it builds the, or you go ahead and build the transformation logic in the interface, which is called the designer. And once you go ahead and finish your transformation logic, that data will be sent into the data quality. In the data quality interface, you have jobs that will handle different checks like your, let's say, duplication or redundancy checks and uniqueness checks, and you are able to go ahead and look for quality of mass data. All of these are pre-built in the data quality solution. So all of this is checked because you are able to import your repository across from designer into the data quality and back as well. So once that is done, then data is sent back into the data integrator, and that data is actually sent to your target system. So that is the usual solution. But what they did was they said, why can't we have both of these on the same platform? Why should we have two different tools for it? So what they did was they combined both of these servers, combined both of these repositories, and combined both of these interfaces. Now you have one server, one repository, and one interface for both data integrator and data quality. Alright, so they share the same server, the same repository, and the same interface, as a result of which we have one tool where we are able to do two major things or solutions. One is the migration solution, the other one is the quality solution. Alright, so now all of you must be understanding what exactly are functions. Alright, now in usual application language, a function is something where you are able to go ahead and apply a logic without majorly changing something on the source or the target. So the function allows you to basically import repeatable code but still give you a solution, right? So it's a repeated code to give a solution that is called as a function. So here you have higher levels of it, and we call them as transforms in data services. Now, trying to understand how SAP defines data services, you basically have SAP define it as a powerful enterprise class data integration and data quality solution. And the main purpose of using data services is to have one development, one runtime, and management environment that allows you to integrate, transform, improve, and deliver data anywhere at any frequency. That is the basic aim of this particular tool, meaning you are able to have one common platform for development, runtime, and management, and you are able to do all of this at any given point of time, all right, with any different source or target system. That is how SAP defines this to be. Now, data services as a tool basically, if you understand, is able to bring data from different sources and then push data into different targets, right? Now, there was an ETL solution from SAP. We call that as business warehouse or business intelligence. But the flaw with that is it was not able to handle non-SAP's data all that well. It had a wonderful SAP ECC BW integration, but it was not able to deliver the non-SAP sources as source systems, and because of which they had to go ahead and come with a new tool. And the solution that they had was data services. It is equally able to bring in data from SAP sources and non-SAP sources as well. This tool has evolved. In the beginning, when it was the 3.0 version, you had integration issues with SAP, but now you're on almost 4.1 and 4.2, and this tool has evolved really, and there has been very close integration with SAP and non-SAP sources and targets as well. All right, the tool is able to support both batch jobs and real-time jobs. Batch jobs are the ones where you are starting a particular job or extraction logic based on a time frame. you mention to the system that, okay, after my business hours at 8 p.m., I'm going to trigger off a job, and that will extract my data from the source and then push it to a different location. And that is what you can do at the batch level. The real-time jobs are the ones where you are triggering the job based on the changes that happen on the source side. Those are the ones that will initiate your job to run. Meaning whenever there is a change, let's say you created a new sales order, the moment that sales order or a purchase order is created, that kicks in the initiation of my job on the source side. That is to be transferred to a different tool or a different application. In that scenario, it will pick that transformation that is created after you create the purchase order and send it to a target system. So that's how the real-time jobs work. Now, so it supports both batch jobs and real-time jobs as well. Very important in the industry. Now, if you look at this picture on my screen, usually I ask my audience, what do you understand by this? Here you have three cylinders. One is ERP, CRM, and WMS, indicating three different source systems. And you have a target data warehousing system. And the usual answer that I get when I ask, what do you understand by this picture is, you are able to fetch data from all of these three different systems and you are sending it to a data warehousing solution or a data warehousing or a consolidated database. But if you look at this picture, what I am trying to sell here is data services has its own staging layer. Why I'm trying to say this is because if you look at the first part of the picture, you will find three bidirectional arrowheads. Alright, why do I have this is because I have the capability in data services to bring the data into the data services application layer, stage the data in there, cleanse your data, apply transformation, and send them back to the same sources without even hitting my data warehousing solution. Alright, it need not always be that my sources need to send my data to a warehousing solution or a consolidated database. You can also want to cleanse your data, you want to transform the data that is existing, and then at times of upgrade, you want to go ahead and change the data or apply some transformation logic, and then you want to bring that data back into your latest version of it. And for all of that, you can use data services because it has its own staging layer. Alright, so that is another advantage that you have with data services. Now, if you look at how the flows are in data services, you have, like I told you, you have something called as functions. Functions are a very minute part where basically you can apply that on a column. Right now, a full-grown proportion of it is called as a transformation. Basically, transformation is something like a function module, but it can be modified quite a lot. It can be customized quite a lot without actually writing any code. Graphically, you can go ahead and make changes. So a transformation is something which is a pre-built mechanism like a function, which can go ahead and map your data, which can help in going and applying a lot of business logic on the existing data set. All right, and transformations are of different types. Right? They're broadly classified into three different sections in data services, but in practicality, every transform is important. All right, so transformation at row level, transformation at column level, grouping transformations, merging transformations, splitting transformations, the different kinds of transformations that can be applied at the time of extraction, that can be applied at the time of loading for comparing your data with different sources. All of these have different transformations. And when you build a business logic, there is a step-by-step process for it. And you build this exactly in the data services environment. Each step, you have a different transformation, and you build your logic at that level. once that data is transformed to that level, that data is again transformed to the next transform where you can go and further transform your data. In that fashion, you have different transforms connected one to the other to finally get your business solution. All right. It need not be directly from one source directly to a target, but it can have multiple sources from different systems again and can be sent to different targets as well. All right. So all of that solution can be handled in data services. And this is a snapshot of how your very simple jobs will look like. You have these transformations applied in series one after the other, and this data is coming from a single source, and then you're sending data to a single target. All right, and this mechanism is stored inside an object called as data flow. All right, and you can have multiple flows as these. You can have multiple data flows. Multiple data flows can be in multiple workflows, and multiple workflows can be handled in series or in parallel, and all of these result in the creation of a job, all right, which can be either triggered off by time frame or by changes on your source side. So this is how the build of your objects is done in data services, right? Your transformations are in three major sections. One is the data integrator set of transforms, all right, and these transforms are majorly used at the time of extraction or transformations, all right. So you have data transfer, you have date generation, effective date, hierarchy flattening, usually used with SAP, history preservation, your SCD type 2 solutions, and history preservation, key generation, map CDC, pivot, reverse pivot, table comparison, and XML pipeline. In the second set, I wouldn't say data quality, but we can go still down and you find something here called as the platform set. It's an add-on for the data integrator set. What you do here is transformation at row level and column level. It has transformations like case, map operation, merge, query, row generation, SQL, and validation. Each of these transformations is used either at a row level transform for either bringing data together, splitting data into different targets, or even trying to go ahead and apply the same case logic as you have or how you have it in switch. All right, your mapping logic, applying smaller functions on individual columns, all of that can be handled by the platform set of transformations. And once you have the platform set of transforms, or once you build the platform set of transforms, then you have the data quality transformations. The data quality transformations are the ones where you have complete data addressing or data check transformations. You have associate, country ID, data cleansing, global address cleansing, global suggestion list match, USA regulatory address cleanse, and user-defined transformations in that. Now each of these transforms are again have sub-transforms in that so that they can be applied specifically to individual countries where that is used. All right, so you have data quality transforms, and that is again applied onto individual countries, or you can have universal application transformations as well. All right. All right. So you have these three major set of transforms that are there, and during our training program, we will be looking at all of these different transforms and how these are applied. All right. With different sources and with different targets, we will be looking at the Microsoft SQL Server as a database. We'll be looking at Oracle. We'll be looking at SAP ECC, SAP BW. All right, at both source level and target level, we'll be looking at SAP HANA, how it integrates into SAP HANA. All of these with the application of different transformations. So we'll be looking at a solution trying to use all of these transforms and moving data across from one system to the other. How do you consolidate data? How do you build a warehousing solution? Are there any other add-ons to data services? What are the methodologies that you use? What is an AIO solution? How do you use with migrations using the AIO methodology? Right? How do you build a warehousing solution in data services? How do you handle comparisons between data from different sources? All of these is what we will be looking during through this training. Alright, once you finish this training, you can actually give your certification exam as well. So here we will be looking at both SAP and non-SAP sources and targets, and even bridging between SAP and non-SAP as well. Right, and if you guys have a little understanding with HANA, one of the prime data replication processes to move data into SAP HANA is through data services. Data services is the only ETL solution through which you can move data into HANA. And if you're trying to move data from different sources like your ECC and databases and web services, all of these, the only way of moving data into SAP HANA is through this ETL layer. Alright, so since HANA is pretty much going to take over in the future, you will definitely need people who have data services experience and data services knowledge to move data into the SAP HANA system. Alright, so you can already see that there is quite some demand in the market for the business objects, data services, consultants and architects. Now, going a little further, and one of the most important topics of our session today is understanding the architecture of data services. Now, the data services architecture basically consists of the repository, which is the central component of data services, and it is surrounded by three major components. One is the data services service, one is the management console, and the third one is the designer. Alright, so you have three major components here. One is data services service, we call it in short as the job server. Then you have the management console, which is the administration block, which is a web interface that you have. This is the management console, and the third one is the actual interface on which you will work as a developer or as a migration consultant, and that is called as the designer. Right. So here in the data services service, you have this divided into three major sections. One is the distributed architecture. You have job server, you have the access server, then you have the cleansing engines. All right. The job server is responsible for all the batch jobs that you create and start off in data services. Like I told you, it will depend more on the time frame, and that is done using the job server. The second one is the access server. The access server is responsible for all your real-time clients. Now, if you're trying to use web services or any kind of XML data to move across between systems, you will be using the access server. The engines are the ones which will aid with your data quality. Now, I've been talking to you about SAP assuring an 80% data quality solution, right? So first thing, let's try to understand what exactly is data quality. It is always a term that is used in relation with another thing. All right, data quality is always something as a comparison. You can only have a term quality only if you have a term called as standard, right? So if you don't have a standard set, you can never measure your quality. All right. So what you have in data services is something a repository where you have the dictionaries and directories. These dictionaries and directories basically have files which have the standard set. All right. Now, when I say standard set, what are these standard set of files? You have your names as the standard set, your short names, your long names, your country names, your street names, your state names, and all of these are available. You also have the abbreviations of companies, company names. You also have email domains that are valid. All of those. You have your SSN IDs, you have your phone numbers, and a lot more is available with the dictionaries and directories. These are populated by the postal department, all right, and SAP again takes this data and then zips it and makes it available as the term for dictionaries and directories which you can bring from the service marketplace. And you need to install these dictionaries and directories or the files, data quality files onto your repository. Right, so this is done by the basis person. And when you run your job with the transforms that are available, these transforms will always compare your data with the standard set that is available, all right? And then you get a comparison, and you will know whether your data that you're passing through is within the quality range or if it is out of quality range. So that is how you determine whether your data is within quality limits or out of quality. If it is not in the same quality standards, then how do we bring it to the same quality standards? Do we have some kind of a way to go ahead and increase the performance and the quality of the data? That is what we do at the cleansing transformations. All right. So you have dictionaries and directories, the address server, and the engines. This entire block is called as the data services service. Now, this is the first connection that you have from the repository. The repository by itself is a complex structure where you basically have within the repository a database, all right? Now the database that is used within the repository can be of, could be a Microsoft SQL Server database, RDBMS, or it could be an Oracle, it could be a HANA, or it could be a SQL Server, right? So there are 5 different RDBMS that you could use underlying the repository. And what the repository does, the sole purpose of the repository is to maintain tables so that this entire system runs accordingly, all right? Meaning the job server's information has to be stored at some location. Data, once you go and build your jobs inside the designer, has to be maintained at some tables. And then your management console, which does the administration part, that tables have to be populated. And when you actually run your jobs, all of these have to come together as a tool, and all of these tables have to be used one with the other so that you are able to give a solution. So all the system tables that are available exist on the repository, and the repository shields the machine from actually bringing data from different sources, or if you want to pull out data from the system or from all of this, the repository will shield the machine. The repository also has, apart from the job server, a management console connection. All right, the management console basically is a web service or a web-enabled tool, has different, has multiple purposes for it. It is the entire administration block, and also a block where you can view all your reports that you bring from cleansing and validation. You also can be looking at the statistics of your jobs in the form of a graph. You can look at we've talked about the data lineage and impact analysis. You can look at those reports here in the management console. Your RFC connection, your background job runs, your web services, all of that will be enabled in the management console only. All right, and then you have the interface, which is called as the designer. The interface basically has 3 major windows. One is called as the project area, the other one is a local object library, and then you have a work area. All right, apart from that, you also have a tool palette through which you can go ahead and use, you can make use of the different transformations as to how you can bring them in. So all of that is handled at the designer level. Okay. The moment you create an object or a flow inside the designer, which is the interface, you have the system tables actually taking the definition of those objects and maintaining them in the repository. So when you run your jobs, these different objects can be interfaced one with the other to give you a solution. Right? For all of that, you have the repository actually holding all these three different servers together. Right. So this is how the architecture of data services is placed. You bring in data from different sources and you connect them into data services as logical connections. You also connect the target systems likewise. And then inside data services environment, that is where you build the logic for handling the business requirements, and your data is moved through these transformations. As it moves across the transformations, your data is transformed, and that is how it is sent to your target systems. Is able to connect to different sources. I'll be showing that to you, and that's how you would be able to move that data into different target systems. All right. This is the architecture of data services. Now, I'll give this time open for any questions that you would have. All right. So, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand at this moment, and then I can ask. We can go ahead and unmute you so that you can ask questions if you have any questions. If not, you can also type them in the chat that is available. So this is about this tool. So this is called the Business Objects Data Services. We will be looking at version 4.0 and version 4.1 during this training. We'll go ahead and see how data can be moved from different sources. We will start off looking into different topics. The topics will be trying to understand the repository by itself, what are the different options that we have. We will be looking at what are the different versions of solutions that we have. And even before we go ahead and start, we will look at how this tool can be used, what are the objects that are there. I've just talked to you a little bit about data flows and workflows and jobs, right? But what is the hierarchy of how you build these? So I'll give you an understanding about each of these objects, and then we will practically look from the installation till how you can go ahead and build a job flow, a sample job flow of how to extract data from a database and target it to the system. Okay, I have a question here. We have extractions in BW and we have extractions in this bots. What is the difference in these two? Now, the simplicity of how you handle data within bots is another level, right? In in BW, you have different layers. You have the persistent staging area. Then you have to model your data according to the info cube or to the data store objects, and then you will have to send it to a multi-provider. On top of that, you will be sending it to the reporting layer. Now, it is not as complex as how you have in BW. Your transformations can be done very simply. If you want to handle transformations in BW, you will have to understand ABAP routines and all of that. So you don't have to do all of that within data services. You have graphical interfaces where you can move them across to give a solution, right? So it also has the quality solution which BW does not have. Some of the plus points over BW when you're using data services and the simplicity of how you can use this tool is one of the biggest reasons why people go for BODS. So this is how it works, all right? So during this training, we will be doing this training on the weekends, and we'll be looking at covering around 8 hours per weekend, 8 to 10 hours on the weekend. And you will have 3 weekends that we will be aiming to complete this course. All right. And during this course, you will have access to the server, right? Once you sign up, they will be giving you individually a server access, all right? Ravi, Allah, just give me one quick. Hey Ravi, I have unmuted you, but I think you're calling in from a phone. There is an audio pin on that. Uh, if you can go ahead and type in your question, I'm looking at it. You can use data to load data into Oracle, and that it's a warehouse. Yes, you can. All right, so going about how this training will happen. During this training, you will have the server access given to you once you sign up. They will give you the access to the server, and you can use it as long you don't have to go ahead and install stuff on your system and all that, because some of the systems cannot support this. So what they will give you an access into which you can go ahead and start using. It's a remote desktop, all right. So it will be specifically to you. You will have your credentials to log into the system, and you'll be the sole users of that interface. Alright, you have a fixed charge from during this couple of months during the training. You will not be charged anything for the server, but beyond that, if you want to use, you will be charged. It is all inclusive of your course fee itself. Alright, so the server will have different components on it apart from data services. To give you that real-time experience, you will have it integrated with Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, SAP systems. On it you will have the SAP ECC 6.0, you have BW 7.3, you also have Data Services 4.1 which is installed. You also will be integrating with the SAP HANA Service Pack 6 as well. So all of these will be available on your server. So it will be easier for you to integrate data and then practice pretty much like a real-time solution. All right, so here is your question. I get this. So you're asking, is BODS a mandatory tool when you're using it with BW to generate your business objects reports? All right, so what you can go ahead and do is it is not mandatory for you to go ahead and use bots when you are extracting or reporting from BW on top of business objects. But in case your business objects is trying to do a recon between your source data and BW, then you will need a tool that will also bring data from the respective source as well. Right? Apart from the BW data, you also want the source data. So if it's something like ECC or a database, you will have to again have another tool that is able to fetch the data to the business objects. In those scenarios, you might want to use business objects data services. Right? I cannot say this is the only hard and fast rule, but business objects data services fits into a lot of places like these. Right? Okay, just give me one moment here. Alright, so this is the Business Objects Data Services 4.1 interface. Alright, so here you have the project area, you have the local object library, you have submenus in the local object library, and here you have projects, you have your jobs, both batch jobs and real-time jobs. Alright, and then you have your workflows, you have your data flows, transformations that are available, integrated data quality platform sets. You have different sources and targets that you can connect to, BW sources, targets, data stores, MS Access and BW sources and HANA sources, ECC sources, web services. You have different file formats you can connect into, flat files, DTDs, XML, Excels, COBOL copybooks and all of those. You have also custom functions that you can build, right? And you have this as your work area. So let's say I have, so let's say we build a logic like this. On to the right, you also will have the tool palette. You call it as the tool palette on the extreme right. So even that is available. So for objects that you would use often, you will find the tool palette as well. Right? So even that is available. There's nothing like a prerequisite for this tool. Basically, if you are able to understand how exactly a database works, or you understand what is a primary key and foreign key and how you can relate them, uh, you can go ahead and take this training. Basically, if you have if you have an idea about SQL, it is a little more advantage than the rest of you. But apart from that, if you have any warehousing knowledge, that will be definitely an add-on. But even people who really don't have that experience also can take this course. Alright, it is independent of thing, because you are connecting to multiple sources and targets, and each time it's a new thing for you. Right, so we will try to look at as many possibilities as we can, trying to connect to different sources and seeing how it works along with it. Right. So this training is for 25 hours. It can spill to 30 hours, but uh, try to give you a lot of information about individual transformations, how they deal with, and what options you have with them. Because be it any sources, I mean, having a source and a target is pretty normal. I mean, it's a one-time thing that you go ahead and do. But if you understand the transformations in depth, then you basically can give any kind of a solution, right? So we will be concentrating on giving the best training for understanding the transformations and how you can go ahead and we could look at how we can integrate one transform with the other and how we can build a flow, all right, how we can schedule the data. Alright. So all of that we will go ahead and look at in our training. Right, so we will be looking at, apart from integrations, we'll also be looking at core concepts of BODS, of how you handle CDC concepts, change data capture. We'll also look at slowly changing dimension concepts. So all of these we will be looking into during this training. All right. So any questions from any of you? Hey Ravi, I've unmuted you. It's just that you have an audio pin that is blocking you from actually. If you have a microphone on with you, you can go ahead and probably connect through that. That'll make it easy for you to ask questions. All right. What are the major advantages that we can present to management team to promote business objects reporting instead of PEX reporting? Alright, that is a completely different tangent of discussion that we should be having. You're talking about a reporting solution as a perspective here. We're looking at an ETL perspective on our discussion right now. Right? No, we will not be looking at data governance in this training sessions. We connect to ECC system basically to bring in the transactional data from SAP. Alright, so when you're looking at a scenario of that, we will be connecting to ECC and then extracting data. Yes, we are looking at how to push data into SAP through iDocs and LSMWs as well. Yeah, to give you a clear-cut understanding, this tool is basically a specialized tool for handling ETL. We do not handle reporting in this tool, Ravi, for your information. This tool is an ETL tool. This is not a reporting tool. Alright, so for reporting to handle, you need data, and that data is provided using the business objects data services. When I say 9 p.m., it doesn't mean Singapore time. We usually follow the EST, Eastern Standard Time. That's the American Standard Time. So when we send emails, you will also be having the rest of the time zones as well, because we have people joining in from different places, from US, from Canada, from UK, Australia. So we would be putting all of those time zones, so that will be sent to you. Right, there is a continuation training for business objects as well. So I'm putting up this slide for any contacts. If you want to go ahead and look at it, you can contact Kalyan. He will be coordinating this training from Technogens, right? And putting up his contact details so that in case you want to speak to him relating to signing up or servers or fees, you can go ahead and contact him on these numbers, right? So, so this is his numbers and these are his emails. So in case you want to go ahead and contact him. All right, just to give you a little about what I do, I work as a business intelligence consultant. I work on BODS platform solutions. I work with HANA and BW or BI 7.3 as well. So you have any questions relating to any of these tools through BODS, then I'd be definitely willing to answer those or give you more information on that. I have over 10 years of experience on the SAP and non-SAP platforms. Right, so we will be looking majorly about what are the major or the usual ways of how things happen. All right, so all right, your first session will be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, session 1 Sunday. All right, so all right, so that will be your first session. All right, so in simplest terms, you will have exactly at the same time tomorrow, you will have your first session commencing. All right. Yeah, so for today we're done. If you have any questions you could ask. If not, call it a day and you can get some rest for the weekend. Alright, so from tomorrow is when our training starts. You will have the first session. Alright, I'd be happy to see all of you during the training. Remember, yeah, you can call Kalyan on those numbers. You can call him right now as well, and you should be able to speak to him. All right. We will be sending you this presentation and also the video, the recording for this presentation. Right. Alright guys, so if you do not have any questions, then I'll call it today. You have a nice evening. Alright, bye for now.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected.